Hi, and welcome to How Humans Heal. I'm Dr. Doni Wilson, and today I am really excited to introduce you to Dr. Sue McCreadie. She is a pediatric physician, and at the same time, today we're going to be talking about the mom part of the equation when it comes to kids. We want to talk about her experience as a mom of her kids and how she's now working to help other moms to survive and not only survive but thrive as parents and into middle age. So thank you so much for joining me today, Dr.
Oh, thanks for having me, Dr. Doni. I appreciate it. It's so fun to be with you again.
Yes, and we're going to share about this event that you've been planning and putting together for women to learn more about this. But first, tell us, first of all, what even inspired you to become a physician, and how did that lead you to helping women?
I love telling this because it starts with my mom. So my mom is now, my mom's 87, my dad's 89. They were just here. And she was a registered nurse. So I actually was introduced to medicine through my mama. And she, back in the day when you could bring your child to work day, she brought me to work, which was the emergency room.
You're like, okay, here we are.
Okay, Mom.
What happens
All
in
right.
the emergency room?
Which just kind of floors me because now in the day of HIPAA and all these regulations, like you would never be able to bring your 11-year-old child or however young I was into the ER. But there I was, and it really kind of opened up my eyes to what was out there, like what she was doing. I really never knew. And I remember going trauma bay to trauma bay, remember going room to room. And honestly, one of the patients that I really remember was just this. He must have been having a panic attack because all he was doing, they just had him blowing in and out of a paper bag. I was like, you could do this at home. You don't have to be in the ER to do this.
You remember having that thought at that age, right? You're like, you realize your mom probably ran an ER at your house all the time, I'm sure.
Which is funny because you and I talk a lot about stress, and the guy was probably just under extreme stress, right? So how cool that it all circles back to that. But that was my introduction. And I thought this ER is really cool. People come in, they're not well, you kind of ship them back well. And so I said to Mom, Mom, I want to be a nurse. And she likes to give orders, not take orders. So she said, be a doctor, don't be a nurse. Give the orders, don't take the orders.
She was wishing she was a doctor. I see.
Yes. She was very much wishing that she was a doctor. So you can see my mom doesn't like to take orders. She likes to give orders. So as she gave orders to me, and I accepted it. I just kind of followed and was like, okay, I'll be a doctor. I really was called into medicine to help others suffering. It wasn't like an intellectual, I love science thing at all. It was all about how do I help people suffer less? How can I ease their suffering? So I just went through the traditional model, right? And I was in med school. I kind of had my first breakdown in med school because it's grueling, as you know, all the training that you go through, it kind of breaks you down and you think, wait, what am I doing? Is this even the right thing? And at first I thought I wanted to be a psychiatrist until I did my first psych rotation. And then I was like, whoa, this is not how I imagine helping people. So ultimately I landed on pediatrics because I love kids. I really do love kids, and they heal me. Like kids heal me. And so being around them, I just wanted to be around them more. And so I really found my calling through pediatrics, which is ultimately what I've been practicing for 2 decades now, is pediatrics. But the cool part is during my training as a medical doctor, I was introduced to, in my 4th year of med school, I was introduced to complementary alternative medicine, as we called it then. And I was introduced to it by a friend, and his name is Kurt. And Kurt said, hey, Sue, will you do this rotation with me? And I said, yeah, will you do this rotation with me, which was neurosurgery. Because
you're like, this is not exactly a trade, but we'll do it anyway.
We'll do it anyway, because I wanted to follow this amazing doctor. She's the first African-American female neurosurgeon, and she was at the hospital that I was training at. And she was so humble. People mistook her, they thought she was the janitor, and I just learned so much from her as a human being, like how she interacted with patients and families, and her communication, her bedside manner was extraordinary, right? But as soon as we got into the OR, I was like, The same for me. Well, the cool thing about that is that Kurt became a neurosurgeon and I became a holistic physician. So I just think,
So it was a good
so
trade
cool.
after all.
It was a good trade after all, because on day 2 of that rotation, I was like, I got to get out of this OR. I don't belong here. But that's how we go through all these things. We're just kind of
Yes.
trialing them on. So that was kind of my first introduction. And when I was during residency, I just knew that by my chief resident year, which was the year that I began teaching and training and was kind of did these administrative roles, I was like, you know what? These kids aren't really healing. Like these kids are just kind of, we patch them up. And sometimes like, I think the best parts is like in the ER or in the ICU when we're really addressing the pathophysiology and we just kind of like close the drain. Like these kids are circling the drain and we're like, you're not leaving this world. We're going to keep you here. And then you ship them home and they're miraculously better. But all the chronic disease is what I kept seeing just revolving. So I felt like it was patchwork medicine. And I really saw that as a 4th year, during my 4th year, which was pediatric chief resident year, I was like, wow, how can I really help these kids? Because this just doesn't really feel like we're helping. So that's where I started kind of branching out into all these different areas. And I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just searching. And I didn't really have any ailments at that time. So it wasn't even for my personal health. I was just trying to like, what's going on here? What are people doing? Mm-hmm. But immediately after I was at the same time as I was kind of launching my pediatric career, I was also newly married and we were working to bring a baby into this world. So here starts my mama journey, because that's where I really, really struggled, which is why I feel so much compassion for these mamas, because I am one and I am now midlife. I just turned 50 and it's been the biggest kind of struggle of my whole health journey. So it started with, multiple miscarriages, difficulty conceiving. And like, it's still in my emotional body. Like as soon as I start talking about it, I can feel the emotion and the loss of it all. And probably our hardest hit was the 2nd trimester loss, where we actually had birthed the baby at home. And then we had to go into the hospital and we actually had to leave that little baby girl there. The whole thing was traumatic. It was really, really kind of just this healing process for me as a mom. And I really had to figure out a way to kind of get above the dark cloud of miscarriage is how I think of it. So I think of it as like I had 10 years of head schooling, but followed by 10 years of heart schooling, where I started connecting with spirit and journaling and meditation and yoga and anything to sort of find the silver lining in all of this, which is, for me, part of what I even do now with kids. I really focus, my practice is not kind of your traditional pediatric practice. It's all about helping the kids who are falling through the cracks of medicine, right? Where, they're having these chronic diseases, and I really help them through nutrition, particularly aligning their diet and lifestyle with their genetics or their DNA. So getting them on the right diet for them, helping them clean up their digestive system, helping them detoxify better. And this was part of my healing process, particularly around methylation genetics, which I know you love.
Yes, we can talk more about that.
We can talk about more about that. So that's part of my story. So I'm like a methylation magnet. I attract all the methylation kids to me because I am a methylation kid. And it came into my world. Now, when I look back, it's part of my journey as a woman, right? I the first struggled with it through digestive issues, but really through all the hormonal imbalances. I struggled with, periods. I struggled with ovarian cysts. I struggled with, again, fertility, right? Multiple miscarriages. And then fast forward to the hormones of, midlife is after, crossing the pregnancy line for the final time. I was basically like a digestive hormonal mess. And I started to have to like regroup and figure out. And here I am like an expert helping kids do that. But yet I'm struggling so much, primarily because of the stress, right? So we've talked about that. I know you were the same too as a mama. And so I was kind of on that typical like coffee in the morning, chocolate midday, wine at night. Those are like my crutches. So I could just keep going along. And lo and behold, it was really one of my daughters. She really went through a tough traumatic event. in third grade, my oldest. And so that really kind of shook me to the core. Like, we need better resolutions. Like, I can't just be limping along like this. Right. So I feel like it's just this evolution and journey. And all the time when I'm in the office, the moms are always like, what about me? What about me? How can you help me? And so I've evolved over time. Initially, I was like, I can't help you. I'm a pediatrician. Right. But
Right,
then,
just the way that medicine defines these specialties, but you're
yes.
like, wait a minute, this is becoming something I'm a specialist in because I'm experiencing it and figuring it out myself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just started opening my heart and mind to different ways that I could support these moms because they were honestly not being able to find their resolution. So
Yeah.
initially I was really helping them, not as a functional medical doctor traditionally who are doing tests and all those things. Initially, I was just helping them with advice in the office, right? As you can imagine, like just through
Yeah.
conversation, right? Parenting conversations that started. And then it evolved into helping them with their nutrition because they can order the genetic test and I can lead them how to get to the report and I can help them through that. Then I help them use the same kind of lifestyle nutritional cleansing system that I use. So it's kind of evolved. And eventually, I came to realize over these past few years that a lot of us know what to do, but we still don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's the
Right?
thing. Well, we do. We can say, "Oh, well, I know I should eat this or not eat that, or I know I should exercise or I know I should meditate." But then life happens, especially when you're
Mm-hmm.
a mom or you have, you run your own business or also for any dads or men listening too. It's like next thing you know, another day went by and you're exhausted and you're like, darn it, how am I supposed to start in the midst of this chaos? Where do I even
That's
begin?
why I love your tips too, because a part of your whole thing is like, how do we just integrate small little steps? Because we come
Yes.
up with this big plan about what we need to do for our exercise. And like one of my coaches, Tony Robbins says, you just need to go run, like just go do something, like
Just
just
dive
get
in
started.
somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just start somewhere. And I remember actually it was a NLP practitioner. It was a program I was in a couple years ago. You're reminding me, neuro linguistic programming.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that the instructor said was just start. And you know what I did? I just remembered this. After doing that program, I decided to sign up for a ballroom dancing class, and I had done ballroom dancing when I was in college, but now
Mm-hmm.
fast forward 25 something years, and I had been taking my daughter to dance classes, but I wasn't taking dance classes. So I took this program, and the coach said, "Do one thing that you've been wanting to do, and just do it."
Mm-hmm.
And I signed up for a ballroom dancing class, and now I'm like, that's one of my favorite things to do. I do ballroom dancing
Mm.
any day,
I love
as
that.
often as I can, and I can't imagine how I went 25 years without it. But it's like at first, yeah, like it feels overwhelming because we're already so overwhelmed in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
How do we just decide? Like you had that moment you said with your daughter where sometimes it is these moments where we get pushed to our max and we realize something needs to change,
Mm-hmm.
I need to do something differently. And then sometimes that's what motivates us to just be like, okay, tomorrow or today or in this moment, something's changing, right? Sometimes we get pushed to that limit. And it sounds like
Oh,
from your story,
yeah.
that was the case.
That was the case with my daughter. I mean, she's definitely I have three daughters, three teens growing up fast. One's about to leave for college down the street. So that's good.
Yeah, not very far, but that's good. Okay. I know, believe me, mine just went to college last year and I'm still getting used to it.
Yeah, it's such an adaptation. I'm like, okay, just around the corner. But she's been one of my greatest teachers through her own, through her own struggles. And then it rises me up to, figure out, okay, what are our solutions and also for my healing. And one of the things that I came to the resolution this year and then what stimulated me to create this Mama Own Your Health Summit is that I realized I just kind of do you ever have those days where you're just really honestly, brutally honest with yourself? And you're like,
Yes.
that day for me, I just realized what I've done for the past 2 decades is I give people the plan. I'm like, listen, this is what you need to do. And then I hand the piece of paper to you. And the best, the people who have been really successful that I've really been able to successfully help are the people who just take the plan and they run with it.
And they follow it. Yeah.
And they follow it and they run with it. And then I started thinking about all these mamas who, like, God bless them, they're the best peeps ever, that they just haven't been able to run with the plan. And I thought, how can I help them? Because I've been able to help myself even, through, I've had to get coaching. I've had to help, get other resources to get me across these different finish lines. Right. So that's where I just launched it. Like, I just said, okay, I'm a breakthrough coach for women. So I just launched it and said, who wants in? And lo and behold, women are like, who've been following me for years. Right. But they're like, I trust you, you know something, you can help me. And we took off and it's been awesome. But basically, that's really about, the difference between where you are now and where you want to be is just a limiting belief. That's what it really comes down to. And lots of times we're missing the strategies. So like you have a strategy, a clear strategy in your book, right? And so it's like, we need that strategy. But sometimes even when we have the strategy, we still don't do anything.
No, we don't. And it's like, sometimes we need a guide there with us along the way. And it can make a huge difference, but we're not used to accepting help. And it makes us feel like there's something wrong or we failed or we're weak if we are asking for help, right? We've been taught that.
Yes. I also like how one of the things that I took away from our talk together, we were talking about stress and so we often like beat ourselves up about these symptoms, right? And I've actually taken your talk. The best thing about this Mama Own Your Health Summit is that you learn so much, okay? And then you can take those tidbits and you go serve someone else with it, right? So one of the things that I heard from you was that when our body is stressed and it's giving these symptoms, it's actually doing its job. That's what it's supposed to be doing. It's giving us right? So now it just allows, that's a mindset shift. That's like looking at it from a different angle. And so often we're beating ourselves up. I don't know about you, but I have, I've beat myself up for my God, I've been eating this way and I've been doing this and that. Because most of these mamas, they're already into health and wellness. It's that they've hit some kind of plateau where they just understand I'm eating well and I'm exercising and I'm not losing the weight. Like if I had a dime for every time someone said that to me, I'd be so wealthy. I already am wealthy, abundant, right? But you know what I'm saying? So it's just this concept of where does the mind have to shift? And that's I'm going to use that tool all the time. That's awesome. That's amazing. Do you know that that's what your body's supposed to do? Because your body is stressed. Isn't that awesome? And then
it's trying to tell you, it's trying to send you a signal and say, we need some attention in here.
Something a lot of people don't know is that too much stress can actually create an abundance of health problems like high blood pressure, high blood sugar, anxiety, migraines, insomnia, even fertility issues. This is because high stress puts your adrenal glands on overload. They release cortisol and adrenaline, which controls your digestion, hormones, immune system, energy, focus, and even your emotional response. So how can you beat stress when you don't know where to start? That's why we have a free 7-day stress reset program. It's designed to help support weight loss, digestive healing, and hormone balancing. It includes support for integrating self-care, daily tips come to you by email and video, gluten-free, dairy-free meal plans, as well as grocery shopping lists, journal pages, and more. This free program will help you beat stress and put you on the path to wholeness in your body. Get your plan now for free at drdoni.com.
And by the way, this conversation that you and I had that you're referring to is in the summit, in your Mama Summit, which is happening. Well, it's going to be, you're launching it next week, right? What is tell us the dates again?
Yeah. So the dates, we launch on Monday, June 13th, and it's 21 days of, of Dr. Doni's. So it's amazing. I mean, I was skeptical about, how much each of you could deliver in a half an hour, because I know mamas are busy. So it's only a half an hour long. And I was really skeptical, but I also created a way so that, yeah, I know you guys are busy. I'm busy. Dr. Doni's busy. We're all busy. Nobody has time. Things are always happening. Today, I had one vomiting. I had another with fever. And I was like, the show must go on. Let's go.
Well, good thing you're a pediatrician because you can manage them
like,
while you're
figure this all out. So I know mamas are busy. So I actually created a whole workbook where like I take Dr. Doni's and I just summarize it. I say bottom line this, key takeaways this, and then some breakthrough questions. Because I think here's the thing that people get stuck with all this information and they don't know how to take the next step, right? Mm-hmm. So after the summit, we're going to do this, 3-hour kind of workshop, play shop together where I'm actually going to help you, like kind of coach you to get across the finish line. And that's the big thing that's really turned for me this year is like, how can I like link arms with these mamas and help them get across their finish line? Because I really do believe that we have these amazing strategies like yours, or I have my strategies too, but sometimes it's just this limiting belief that gets in the way. And when we shine a light on them, it is so cool. Because once you see it, like the problem is all these limiting beliefs, they're like hiding out, they like to hide out. And so you don't even know they're there. But then when you have someone just reflect it back to you, then you can say, oh my God, that's true. Or oh my gosh, wow, I never saw that. And then once it's to the light, then you can address it. But while it's hiding out, you don't know what you don't know. So that's what I think is so cool.
Well, and it's such an amazing, resource because women are going to be able to listen in from wherever they are because it's online and on whatever time you can listen in. You have this workbook to guide you, and then you have this 3-hour session to really help them get the most out of this experience. Because I know so many times people might do an online event, but you still might not know what to really take from it and to use it. Mm-hmm. And I hear from you that you don't want people to just have the information. You want them to be able to benefit from it and change their lives from it. And that's a beautiful intention and service that you're providing. And I'm so grateful to be part of it. I'm so grateful that I get to be part of that. So thank you for including me. I'm going to make sure in the notes here that people know how to sign up for the summit and be part of it and be able to continue this conversation and now that they know more about you in terms of like what has inspired you to share this information and what even led you to discover these approaches. It's so interesting, by the way, because so you and I were such in parallel over the past couple decades. Here mm-hmm. I was trained as a midwife and naturopathic doctor and helping women with fertility and preventing miscarriages and helping with MTHFR. I have my protocol for addressing MTHFR related to miscarriage prevention and pregnancy. And it's like, again, it's the same thing. I'm motivated to help people who are not being helped. And that's the thing is still in conventional medical settings, that's not a functional medical setting. These are areas that are not really being addressed yet. It's not being addressed, somewhat maybe diet and exercise. They might say it'd be good to eat healthy and exercise, but like you're saying, people could be eating healthy or what they think might be healthy and exercising. Mm-hmm. And yet still, if we're not helping our bodies keep up with the stress we're exposed to, then it's not enough. And how do we understand both our genetics and our stress exposure to the extent that we can actually help ourselves stay healthy, even if we are parents or even in midlife and menopause and beyond, right? And so I love this message that you're sharing in this summit. Like, how can we help ourselves be healthy?
Yeah. And I think the visualization that just came to mind was from another doctor you'll meet at the summit. And she's an OB-GYN and so cute. She leaned in the camera and she's like, "You're so cute. Where are you from?" And I'm like, "I'm 50. I love it." I'm like,
that's funny.
So some of these doctors, they've been practicing for 40 years, and the way she described menopause to me, I was just like, wow, why didn't I learn that way? That's so cool. But her analogy, with midlife is that basically we're flying in this 2-engine plane, and we're dropping one engine at a time, which is one ovary, then the other ovary in terms of functioning.
SOS, basically. Watch out.
And she said, the cool part is that you can get it so that you glide to the finish line, right? But so many people, what happens is they hit midlife and they just like crash and burn, which is, what you see and what I see. And so that's the cool thing is that, it's amazing. I know you know this too, Dr. Doni, but so my parents were just here for my eldest. She just graduated from high school and they were like they're 87 and 89. They want to fly across the country. And I'm thinking, that's what I'm thinking. So they get here.
What's going to happen now?
What's going to happen now? I'm just praying like everything goes okay and it's manifested how they desire. And it was. But what's cool that came out of that? My dad wasn't eating dairy for 3 days, right? And so he said to me, he's like, is it possible that not eating dairy, I'm not congested. I don't have this postnasal drip anymore. And I was like, yes, Dad, it is. We've gone over this before. And my point being is at 89, he's 89 years old. And within 72 hours of eliminating dairy from his diet, he gets resolution of symptoms. You see what I'm saying? So I'm it's never too late.
It's never too late. Exactly. It's never too late to discover these connections.
Yeah.
And then to realize, wow, hey, having no congestion, it makes such a difference in my life. I don't even care about eating dairy. It's no longer important to me, but I think sometimes it's about how do we prioritize our health and ourselves to that degree, right? Where we're I am willing to change my diet. I am willing to change my life if it means I'm going to feel better, even at whatever age.
Yeah. And it's just making that connection. And I think that's a lot of what you do and I do is we just start helping people connect the dots, right? So yeah, it's beautiful. So never too late.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Sue. And tell us more how people can find you, what other, anything else you wanted to make sure they know about reaching out to you to find out more information.
Yeah. I mean, you can find me on social at Dr. Sue McCreadie. And then, for the summit, come join the summit. We're going to have fun. All the mamas are going to link arms. We're going to have fun. It's mamaownyourhealth.com for the summit. And you can connect with me directly on social is probably the easiest way. And I think those are the big things. My website, if you want to know particularly about what I do and how I help, you can go to fitfemmefree.com and that's how you can find me.
Love it. Oh my gosh, it's so awesome. I am so glad that you reached out to me to introduce yourself and that we made this connection. I'm so excited to know you and to be part of this and of course to be able to help more people with this information. So thank you again so much for being here today and for creating the summit. And
thank you, Dr. Doni. We're definitely connected in stress. Both of us are focused on the stress piece. So thank you for all the work that you do around that. It's so, I always say stress is your number one obstacle to health. And I truly believe that's a big part of helping humans heal is address the stress. And also opening up to the fact that, for the long time, we're always dealing with physiological stress, but know that there's mental, emotional stress. And a lot of what I do with, women now is also what you would call spiritual stress, right?
Yes.
What's my purpose? Why am I here? All of this type of, those are all stressors too. Isn't it fun?
It's absolutely true because we often are thinking just of our day-to-day stresses or happen to us or, the stress of the moment, but to realize, the stresses can show up in different ways, whether infections or injuries, or as you're mentioning, just losing track of who I am and what my purpose is in life is also a stress, and being willing to be open to that. And I think that, as you've mentioned, this isn't something you learned in medical school. It's not even something I learned in naturopathic medical school very much. We did learn some about spirituality from way back then. And I'm so grateful from my instructors in naturopathic medical school that started to open my mind to all of this back then. But it was really, you going through your experiences, your stresses in life that helped you to realize, wow, I need to find a way to support myself through this, even though it's not something that you learned in medical school. And I think that that's really courageous, because people might think, oh, Well, you're trained as a medical doctor. You should know how to fix everything and to be willing to say, hey, actually, even though I have this degree in training, doesn't mean I know that I was trained how to address spiritual stress. I had to figure that out in life. And,
Yeah. And here's like another cool thing, so there's another doctor on the summit called Dr. Amy, and she's a medical doctor. She started out in surgical because she wanted to cut out problems, right? And isn't that funny? And so what she's ended up is cutting out stored trauma, which is another huge source of stress. And that's like another whole thing that I don't think we don't know what we don't know. And there's so many women who have never connected the dot that they are holding on to stored trauma, which is disrupting their hormones. And it's like, you're just not thinking about that. I'm not even thinking about that. I remember the first time I heard about trauma, I walked away from the talk and I was like, have I ever experienced trauma? And then immediately I had a hit of the traumatic event. But it's funny because it's so stored deep, so down that we forget about it day to day. So it's not only the day to day, it's also what we call historical stress is huge too. So there you have it. Isn't it great? There's stress all over.
We're so busy with our day. And sometimes then you start to realize like maybe I'm busy because I'm avoiding looking at some of these traumas, because it feels scary.
Ooh,
it feels scary, true? But it's actually when we slow down and then we're like, now, and things get a little more quiet, then we're like, oh, that's what was under there. And then we need help through it. It's not something that you have to do on your own. This can be done with support and with people who've been there too and guide you through it. You don't have to do it on your own. And I was going to say this, I love that you mentioned that about surgery, because I actually put a line in my book, the Master Your Stress book, where I said, last year, while I was writing the book, I had a growth on my neck. And so while I'm writing the book, I'm going through diagnostic processes, biopsies, and eventually a surgery about a year ago. And I said, I went through surgery to remove the growth, but the surgery did not remove the trauma that caused the growth. I had to do that work on a spiritual level. I went through deep healing on a emotional, psychological, spiritual level to address the cause of the growth. And that wasn't going to get solved by surgery. So I love that you mentioned that. It was like, we have to realize it's not all going to get fixed by a surgery or a pill, right? It's not about that. It's how do we take that chance to ask those hard questions and be willing to look in those spots that we've been hiding even from ourselves. We've been scooting it under the rug to ourselves, hiding it from not just the rest of the world, but hiding it from ourselves of what happened. And it's once we're willing to look at that and be present with it and love ourselves and forgive ourselves through those things, then we get transformation happening. Then it's like now a whole different possibilities open up because we're no longer tethered, right, to these traumas that occurred at some point in our lives. And it's something humans go through. Humans are going to have stress. Humans are going to have trauma. So it's nothing to be hard on yourself about. It's something to love yourself for and to support yourself through.
Yeah. And I was thinking this is called How Humans Heal. And I was like, what is it? How do humans truly heal? And I feel like I started in the physical world and then I thought about mental, emotional, right? And now I really think about spiritual. And I think so much of it, even with the woman that I was coaching today. And I just love these mamas, right? It's just we're so hard on herself and she's really going through healing with her own mama. Because we get to do that too.
Yes. Oh, yes.
That I feel that our whole human experience really is almost just about to come back to who we truly are and to really love ourselves for who we are and to do love above all, that love or God is in all things. And that when we honestly can see that and embrace that and live that, and forgive, which can be really hard. Forgiveness and love, I feel that's how we ultimately heal. I truly believe that.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree with you that and it sometimes sounds so oversimplified, but actually finding that love and acceptance for ourselves, it's sometimes it does take some processing and some work and some digging through some tough areas to really resolve the things that are preventing that from happening. But yeah.
Yeah. And there was another OB-GYN, Dr. Tabitha, who I would ask, as I asked Dr. Doni too, you own your health when? And she said, you own your health when you radically accept yourself.
Acceptance. Yeah.
Acceptance, right? And I was just like, wow, it's you, like, just radically accept, like, wherever you are. Like, I can even get emotional with that, right? Because we're always striving, we're always not this or not that or not, like, my whole big thing is I'm not enough. I'm never flipping enough. It's like,
I think a lot of people feel that way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when she said that, I was just like, the whole thing is just experientially healing. That's what I can say about Mama Own Your Health Summit, because it's just, as you're going through it, these are mamas. Most of them are all mamas themselves. And it's really beautiful, And so when she said that, like, you just want to go mic drop and then put your head down and start going through a healing session of crying, because it really truly is about just radical acceptance, radical love, radical forgiveness, and that's how ultimately humans heal.
I agree, and I love that because as practitioners, I mean, we were taught not to tell our story, not to talk about our own health, right? And here you are sharing a summit where there's medical practitioners talking about what they learned as humans, not just as practitioners. And that's huge. I just love that you're breaking that barrier and saying enough already. As practitioners, we want to talk. We want to tell our story, our health journey, and what we've learned as humans, not just as practitioners, and not just telling you what I learned in a textbook, but I'm telling you what I learned in life. And go for it. I'm all for it. I think that transformation needs to happen in the healthcare practitioners in the healthcare industry.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks again. And I'm sure you and I will be in touch and talk more soon. And thank you everyone for listening. Definitely check out the Mama Own Your Health Summit and Dr. Sue McCreadie. And thank you again so much for listening in. Please share your comments. You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
And I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to How Humans Heal. If you liked this episode, leave a rating and a review. And for more resources, visit drdoni.com.